Clare Davis and I am back with Mental Health Chats. And what we are talking about today is something really, really important. It's all about the truth about what businesses really pay when employees leave. And I'm really excited about my guest today because we actually went to university together in Armidale in Australia. Hello, Al, how are you?
I'm very well, Claire.
That's
Really well.
great. And now I'm on the other side of the world, and so are you, Alasdair. So tell everybody, whereabouts are you based?
Yeah, I think we left about the same time, didn't we? It's
Yeah,
certainly, I think 30, I'm around 30 years since leaving, so I've very much established, and quite a lot of that has been where I am now, which is in Guernsey, in
yep,
the Channel Islands, which is a
yeah,
very small island about 70 miles south of the English South Coast.
yeah. And it's a
And
beautiful part of the world because I've been there to visit you, which is very exciting. So we actually studied the same course. We both studied Bachelor of Financial Administration, so basically accountancy. And can you tell everybody since then what you do and why it's so applicable to this topic?
yeah, I guess I've I've been very much probably a generalist over my career. I started and qualified in Sydney in chartered accounting. Moved from a big four firm where I
Yeah.
spent a couple of years into a small firm, and then when coming overseas, moved into financial services. I'm very lucky. I think that accounting has allowed me to travel and work in lots of different parts of the world, including Europe and the UK. A little bit of time in Africa.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to travel a lot. And at the start of the 2020 pandemic, I set up my own accounting business here in Guernsey. I was really fascinated watching the development in digital accounting, and now offer a digital accounting service with an interesting niche in the super yacht and maritime sector, where I spent the
Wow.
last 10 years working.
And that's why Guernsey is such a good place for you to actually be, isn't it? Because of the maritime area.
Yeah, it's got a big maritime history, and there is still a lot of particularly super yacht and the merchant navy crew employment worldwide. There's quite a lot of it is centralised, and international employment generally has got quite a big presence in Guernsey.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. So you would have seen a lot of different types of businesses. And one thing that is really, really difficult for businesses and costs a lot of money is when they have high staff turnover and people are leaving. So a recent survey by the REC actually said it costs 2.5 times someone's salary approximately to replace them. So it's not just the replacement costs, it's not just those recruitment costs. Would you like to explain a bit on what the other hidden costs are, Al?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, I was CEO of a 25 sort of person financial services business here in Guernsey for 6-7 years before setting up by myself. And really experienced that, in quite a tight labour market. But you've got your obvious costs around recruitment and leaving, but I think it's actually the management time that's a huge. The amount of time that it takes management handling. You've got to handle your exit interviews and those sort of things. Look at that cultural side. You've got to look at then the impact of training, and I would say, in my experience, you're looking at least 6 months, if not 12 months, to really get someone up to speed. There's the impact on your team and your morale because it then takes up the trainer's time,
Yeah.
getting your processes set up. So it doesn't surprise me it's that sort of cost. I think the disruption that comes from it, often it means having to rethink your resources as well. And if you've got
Yes.
high staff turnover, I think it's actually, it's very easy as a management team to have to become reactive,
Mm, mm,
and not be able to be forward thinking in terms of what you want
yeah.
to do for your business.
Definitely, definitely. And it's really interesting. You've used the word impact, impact, impact quite a lot. And not only are there the impact on the costs, there's a huge impact on their profit. So would you like to explain the impact on the profit, not just these replacement costs, but what's happening to the profit if it takes so long to train somebody up and, you know, retrain them, etc.? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, certainly historically, people have always talked about profit, particularly in services businesses, being 3 times, you know, around about 3 times. I think with digitization, you could be getting a better margin, but definitely if the cost is reported 2.5 times, then you can sort of see if your profit margin is sitting at 30%, then actually you're getting quite close to not making any profit out of that. And I
Yeah.
think that's and again, it's not just that one employee who's impacted, it's the resources that you're having to take from their management team, their colleagues, having to train them. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses should but don't have the statements of the SOPs in place, that the standard operating procedures. I was looking for try not to use acronyms, but having those in place can help that sort of change, and it's highly recommended. But often businesses are having to move so fast, particularly small businesses, that they're not always in place as well as they could be to help manage that impact. Again, there's that word again.
Yeah, that word impact again. And let's look at an example then, because you've mentioned small businesses there. So a client that came to me recently, actually, they have 100 employees, and 10 of those employees left within 6 months. So that's 10% of their staff, which is huge. So can you explain the impact on their profit then if 10% leave within 6 months?
It's got to be really high, doesn't it? In terms of it, it depends on what that staff mix is and what those people were doing exactly. Obviously, I don't have numbers that I could put around that, but I think the impact on that is going to be really big on their profitability. And also, looking at measurements of your sort of the net promoter score, or how well your customers think. You got to think there's a disruption when your teams leave. Of you have to introduce someone new into a relationship with your customers. Generally, people don't like change, so that can it causes another area of managing those relationships with your key customers, perhaps having those measurements in place, and changes your team dynamics. So I think it's in terms of your profit, 10% of your staff leaving, if they're I'd say 10% if they're at any level, but obviously if there's some senior staff, and I think you want some attrition naturally in your business. You don't want to be holding on to the wrong people for the wrong people for the wrong reasons. At the same time, you don't want to be losing talent that you could have. And I've certainly been in businesses where we've had to look at that culture and go, why is it we've got people who are coming in and joining us who are actually joining enthusiastic and fresh, and then a year later not feeling that they've lost that enthusiasm and they're looking for something else, or it's not working. And I think businesses really need to dig deep into why they're losing people and what they can do to retain them. And to take that, the exit interviews, I think, are key to that, to really being able to have accept that criticism and be open to the feedback, and then look at putting things in place. Because I think also, as you say there, with the impact, if with 10% leaving, these things can create an energy. People leaving at that sort of 1 in 10 people leaving, that's going to be noticed in your team.
Definitely. And you've said something really interesting there about exit interviews, and what we work with our clients is to not wait till the exit interview, and actually we do confidential staff retention audits, where we're talking to people, how happy are you, etc. And we're finding this out confidentially, because so often I've found in the past, when working with clients, they don't always get the real truth in exit interviews. It's case where people are leaving and they think, well, I'm not going to tell them because they won't change anything anyway, and who cares? So we want the truth. We want to get deep down and find out what is the truth and how can we make changes and those cultural changes so that we don't have the happy employees when they join us and then within 6-12 months they're wanting to leave. Definitely.
Yeah, that's one thing. I work with a lot of businesses in terms of looking and measuring not just their financial performance, but also how they can be a more valuable business.
Yeah.
And a key part of that, and whether you want to sell or not, to be in a position that you could sell if you needed to. And we're
Yeah.
all, whether it's a health reason, whatever emergency that might create that trigger, you want your business to be in a position that you could exit.
Yeah.
And a key to that is having, any acquirer coming in is going to want to know what the staff are like. So I think that's fundamental, having an employee survey regularly that's looking at that feedback and engaging with you and making them feel heard is as important as having a customer feedback as well.
And that's why the clients I work with use an external provider for that, because people are a lot more they're a lot more open and they're wanting to tell the truth to somebody externally because they know it's confidential. Whereas if it's somebody internally, they may feel a little bit, I'm not going to be as honest. So it works really, really well. So yeah. And I love the point that you've made. If people want to sell their business, they actually need to have a happy team. They need to have happy managers, because that's one of the reasons why you've got somebody who is going to buy the business from them.
Yeah, you absolutely need to have an engaged team, and really, not many purchasers want to buy or will look at a business where the owner is really still engaged. So you need to empower your team. You want to have a team that can run. You need that business to run and to be separate from the owner, and that's hard because a lot of owners, we get them. I'm a business owner. You pour a lot of energy in. It's a very emotional. Sometimes that's hard to look at things with the unbiased eye, and you need to. And I think that's what you see comes up in exit interviews. So having a third party and actually creating a culture where you encourage people to speak up is a really important part of any business.
Definitely. And feeling safe, that psychological safety to speak up. Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, Al, I knew you'd be a great guest because we've known each other for so many years. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would love to get in contact with you. So where could people actually find you to reach out?
Well, I'll put my website details, which are btmgroupci.com. But we can include those with this podcast. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. Just search my name. It's interesting in spelling, so it should be quite close to the top of the list. On most of the social media platforms, but tend to focus on LinkedIn.
Lovely.
But we do have a small YouTube channel on Facebook as well.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your wise words and all of your insights, and take care.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Claire. Really appreciate it.